Hey everyone, Jason here from Off the Beaten Path, picking up where we left off, right here on top of Mt Gibbo. So we're heading from Mt Gibbo, heading west down the western side of Mt Gibbo, following the Mt Gibbo Track, which comes down to this junction here with Benambra Log Road, yeah, good luck saying that, and the Pheasant Creek Track, which comes in here. And we turn on to straight running Creek Track for about 4k's before turning right and on Wild Boar Track to head north. You can see here we actually hit the other end of the Paddy Joy Track, which puts us just 6k's from where we started the day at the Paddy Joy campground. So you could make that a loop and use Paddy Joy or Wheelers Creek Hut as a base camp and do this as a day trip as a loop, which is certainly very, very doable. But for us today, we're continuing on and following the rest of the Wild Boar Track. There's some good climbs, particularly through this last section here, which brings us up onto the end of Zulu Creek Track. Again, long-time watchers of the channel might remember Dan and I came up that track on one of our first trips, and then we ended up doing this latter part of Wild Boar Track, and Trippy Matt actually came out to try and rescue us, but fortunately by the time we got out here we were mobile again. But yeah, so we're heading up here to Mt Sassafrass, 1587 meters, so 3 mountains one day, and then another 10k's out on the Wild Boar Track out to the Corryong Benambra Road, quick run south, past the windfall, which ends up being the camp for tonight. I'll come back to that at the end of the video, but that's where we end up camping. And from there onto the Dartmouth Track, and none of the signs tell you, but it's about 17k's along here. It's not a difficult drive, but it's 17k's, so nearly 40k's return to get out here. And it's about where I put this pin marker. There's a little parking area there for the Greens Creek Battery, Greens Creek Historic Battery, and it's an old 10-head stamping battery installed back in the 1880s, and it's still got the steam engine and 2 boilers and some other pieces of machinery installed on the site back from the 1880s, and it's actually one of the most intact sites anywhere, so well worth a look. And yeah, that last little bit is the 700 meter walk down to the valley, which means yes, it's a 700 or 800 meter walk back up, and if you're fit like me, you just love that stuff, but it's good for us. So without any further ado, guys, let's get into the video. Hey everyone, Jason here from Off the Beaten Path, picking up where we left off, and we're heading away from the summit of Mt Gibbo on the western track, and look at that view. It's just amazing that you can drive your vehicle up to some of these peaks and enjoy these kind of views as you're heading down off the summit. It really is second to none. Now the western track has always been considered probably the easier approach to the Mt Gibbo summit. Having said that, it's definitely had some traffic since I last drove it. It was a little more chopped up, and definitely more challenging than it has been. Having said that, I wouldn't say it was difficult. As I said, in the last video, there was a club group. They probably had 12, 15 vehicles, and everybody drove this. It's just particularly for unlocked vehicles and vehicles without traction control as well. You'd really want to watch your wheel placement. There's some wombat holes that you would have seen just there as I was working my way down. Just trying to keep the trailer sort of as level as I can on some of those descents. And you can see the track ahead of us opening up. We head down this side, then up the next hill and over it, and onto the third hill in the distance there. can see that there's a fair bit of loose rock on the track here. It is kind of shaly. I'm just heading to the right there to avoid that rock step on the left. It's not huge, but again, I sort of figure when you tow the trailer, take the path of least resistance if you can. So I was a little bit slow and steady heading down here. Looking to go around or avoid most of those little rock steps, and there really never used to be many or any on this section of track. Getting onto the flatter sections, you can generally maintain a pretty good pace. The track's in pretty good condition most of the way through here. See on the video there. There's a few sections like this where you cross some nice valleys, you head down one hill and straight up the one opposite. Heading off Mt Gibbo, I'm actually in the lead, so everybody else is behind me, and Luca took this long shot. You can see me towing the dot there in the front, and I'm not sure which one of the GU patrols that is behind me, but I think that's 2 GU patrols and then Dan, and I'm not sure where Paul and his FJ is, but nice long shot there showing the convoy working its way up the other side. A little bit off camber, and definitely an area here that gets a bit soft from time to time. Steady climb here, but quite a good surface with plenty of grip and not a lot of loose rock on it. So as I said, this is definitely the easier approach. So if you want to go to Gibbo and you don't want to come around via Benambra and you don't want to drive that Mount Anderson section or the eastern side of Gibbo, coming up from this western side is definitely the easiest approach to Gibbo, and then you'd be going down that eastern side, which is a little bit more difficult, and you can take the Mount Hope Road and go to a lot of places from there. So food for thought if you're thinking of visiting this area. And yeah, just so many dead trees through here. There, just silver dead trees everywhere, dating back to when the bushfires sort of ripped through here a few years back now. And at this altitude it does take a while for trees to grow, so it's going to be a little while before they're covered over with new growth. There's a lot of new small growth happening, but it's going to be a lot of years yet before those silver trunks are covered up. And most of the track here is descending. As I said, there's a few of those valleys where you go down one side and up the next side of the hill, but as you work your way further towards the first main intersection with Benambra Log Road, you are generally descending all the way down to that track. So while there's some flat sections and the occasional uphill, the overall trajectory is downhill. Still, you get to enjoy those views as you make your way down this side as well. compared to what we had been driving, this is actually a nice sort of reprieve. You can see here at this point it's basically a two-wheel drive gravel track, and a lot of the early section of this track is exactly like this. It's really only on that final approach to Gibbo that you get the loose rocky stuff, and a couple of rock steps are starting to develop. The majority of the track is like this and very, very easy to drive. Your biggest challenge is probably how many pinstripes you're going to get from the encroaching bush on either side. So just coming down here to the end of the Mt Gibbo track, Benambra Log Road on the right, Pheasant Creek track on the left. We're continuing sort of straight across over there onto Straight Running Creek track, which we're going to follow for about 4 kilometres before getting onto the Wild Boar Track. Now, Straight Running Creek track is marked as difficult in this section. I suspect that is from some time ago. It has well and truly been graded. It's basically a road. Well, it is a road, in my opinion. So that track rating on the Hema maps definitely needs to change. Yeah, and this has been like this for at least 3 or 4 years. So don't let the difficult rating on this section put you off coming this way, because as you can see, it's far from difficult. I think this is one of the main logging roads they've used to access the area in the past, and it's in good nick, and you do get some great views from it, sections like this. Now a little bit further on, we have turned on the Wild Boar Track, so that's why the track is markedly different. I usually try and make sure I capture those turns on camera, but this time I missed it. So we're well and truly onto the Wild Boar Track here, about 3-4 k's in, and we're just passing there the southern end of the Paddy Joy track. So that track is just a 6 kilometre trip downhill, and that would actually take us back to the Paddy Joy campground where we started this morning on this day, which was in the most previous video. So yeah, it is an opportunity to drive that as a loop, and it's definitely doable in a day trip. But in our case, we're wanting to push on and visit some other parts of the high country, so we've continued on Wild Boar Track. It is a highly variable track. You can see this section sort of closed in a bit. You get this section that's really got a dirt base, and it does get wet at times. It's been pretty dry at the time we're driving this, so it's less of an issue. But you certainly do see some erosion and some ruts forming on this track at different times. This is probably the best condition I've seen this track in for this section of it. And then as we get a little closer to Mt Sassafrass, there's a good climb at the end of this track up towards Mt Sassafrass and the top end of the Wild Boar Track where it meets Zulu Creek Track. And that climb is probably a lot looser than I remember it being from previous visits. So yeah, a little bit of a soft spot there, but not of any particular concern. And you can see what I mean about how tight this track gets in places. Time here, climbing our way up. So this is the beginning of the climb out of this valley, and you can see here there's a decent rut down the middle, largely I think formed by water erosion running down the track. As you can see, this track doesn't have those sort of humps that are built into a lot of tracks to divert water off. Just conscious of that tree height there, but fortunately the dot's basically the same height as the car, so if the car goes under, then the dot's going to make it, no problem. Added to the challenge here was the fact that we were driving west in the late afternoon, so this was a rocky, loose little section here, and at the same time contending with the fact that the sun was actually blinding us, making it really hard to see the track and see where you were driving. In some parts it was just a case of try and go straight and hang on till the sun went behind the next tree and you could get a look at the track. But yeah, then you progress on to sections like this where it's hidden down in the valley somewhat. And it's a reasonably steady little gradient on this section. You can see we're getting closer towards the top of the ridge line here. The odd sort of rut or wombat hole on this section of track, it's generally in pretty good condition and very, very drivable. A little bit wet on this climb. I think that was from a natural spring more than anything, because there certainly hadn't been anything in the way of rain to wet the track down, that's for sure. See there, the car's just climbing up, no real difficulty in making that final climb. Again, the track conditions have changed there, of course, reasonably markedly. Once again, I must say the 76 has just been doing an absolutely fabulous job towing the trailer. A lot of times like this, you barely know it's actually on the back. And yeah, certainly want to keep wide on some of those high country corners like that. Obligatory fallen tree sort of carnage on the track. Unfortunately, once again, wasn't something we had to worry about. The track had already been cleared. They'd been pushed off to the side, or they'd fallen off to the side of the track. Getting very close to the top now. Another switchback here. Just made it on that one. Fortunately, the trailer does a good job of following the car, and it's no wider than the vehicle. And just as we're getting towards the top, once again that sun is still peeking over the tops of the hills. Sign up ahead here is just denoting the Wild Boar Range Natural Scenic Reserve. And again, you can see in wetter conditions, people have certainly had to do some work to climb up here. All the rocks essentially being pushed off the main tyre track areas, but for us, dry conditions, there's plenty of grip. There was no real difficulty or issue in working our way up here. And just starting that last climb now up to the ridge line. So Wild Boar Track comes up here and joins on to the end of Zulu Creek Track, which you might remember Dan and I drove probably 2 years ago, 18 months, and had some issues with his Prado. That was actually, that trip was the last trip in that particular Prado and led to him having the Iron India that he's got now, which is another 90 series Prado. By all means, go back and check out those episodes if you want to see that story and what happened there. So yeah, Zulu Creek Track on the right, and we're continuing left onto the Wild Boar Track. From this junction here, it's only 1 or 2 kilometres, and we get to the Mt Sassafrass summit and trig point. So that's where we're heading to now for our next break. And this section of the track is a pretty easy run. Pretty much all the way, you follow Wild Boar Track here, all the way through. It takes you out to Benambra Corryong Rd. Yeah, right now just keeping an eye out. It used to be signposted, the access up to the Mt Sassafrass summit, but unfortunately, like a lot of signs in the high country, that one's gone by the by over time with I don't know whether people decide they need some firewood or what, and the wooden signs look like good firewood, but either way they get vandalised and they get broken and they disappear, which is a real shame. Again, certainly plenty of those dead trees making a feature up here. Good little climb here, nothing too difficult, but certainly a steady little climb. As you can see on the screen there, we are approaching the summit of Mt Sassafrass. Just on the right here as you come to this straight bit of track. Easy to miss, particularly without the sign that used to be there. Not heaps of room up in here, but there is a trig point marker to let you know that you have actually found the summit. And being the first one driving in with the trailer, I'm trying to turn around and get pointing back out, which with a trailer on the back is easier said than done. So just pulling into this section here where hopefully I can straighten the trailer out and get to the point that I'll be able to drive out after our little stop over here. Guys are patiently waiting there for me to finish manoeuvring. So
Mount
yeah,
Sassafrass on the way out. Another trig point for the dot. 3 in 1 day. Benambra, Gibbo, and now Mt Sassafrass. Not heaps of room at this trig point, but we have all managed to fit in.
You might recognise one of the stickers up there. It's not mine, but you know, I know a lot of you that watch this channel also watch Krusty, and yeah, spied one of his stickers up there. So yeah, heading off now from Mt Sassafrass, and I was just going to say, yeah, that you saw that footage there. That was from my GoPro Hero 7. Don't know what happened with that, whether it's a problem with the camera or the settings or what the story is, but as you can see why I haven't used much of that footage in the video. It was just super overexposed. Really not sure what's happened there exactly. So from here we're continuing south and west on the Wild Boar Track. It's about 10 k's out to the Benambra Road, which is where we're heading next now. Most of the 10 k's here is a pretty easy run. There's not really too much in the way of
Wild
steep
Boar
sections along
Track.
here. It is a nice sort of ridgeline drive at times with some great views from different sections of the track. So some footage here from Luca just following me along, showing how the trailer's rolling along nicely behind the car. Some sections like this I do almost disappear in a cloud of dust. And yeah, one of those sections here where you just get some magic views of the high country as you're working your way down along the ridges. Well worth it. And as you can see, just taking it slow and steady. Always got to be a little bit conscious when you're towing a trailer of what that trailer's doing, and the fact that anything you're driving the car over, it's a little bit delayed before the trailer gets to it. And yeah, obviously this section is a nice easy run, basically two-wheel drive track. And it's not too long at all before we're getting close to the end of the Wild Boar Track. This end section is very much a two-wheel drive road. There is one side track on the right hand side as we come up here about 3-4 k's before the end. I think at this point we're already past it, and that is the Zulu Mine Track. That has been closed for some time, however. And just coming out here on the end of Wild Boar Track onto the Benambra Corryong Rd or Corryong Benambra Road, and we're turning left, heading south just a couple of k's to the Eustace Gap Track, which takes us past the Windfall campsite and then onto the Dartmouth Track to go and check out the historic Greens Creek Battery, which is an old mining battery for crushing the rock that was dug out to find the ore. It is shown there on the sign. What they don't tell you on the sign is how far it is. I had been here only once before, some years ago. We're showing this site by some other people, and I didn't recall exactly how far in it is. It's about 17, 18 k's in. With the initial couple of kilometres on Eustace Gap Track that you drive, it's probably nearly 20 k's, so it's about a 40 kilometre return journey. So just something to factor in if you think you're heading out and checking out this battery. And look, I suggest that you do. It's well worth it. If you're as fit as I am, certainly allow yourself plenty of time to walk back up the hill, that's for sure. Others will do it in their stride. So the initial section of this Eustace Gap Track is very much a two-wheel drive gravel road. You can certainly maintain a good clip. And we're just coming up here to the turnoff where we're keeping right to head on to the Dartmouth Track. And yeah, as you can see on the screen, it's about 17 k's from here to the Greens Creek battery, but the signs don't tell you that. I think it'd be good if they did tell you, because I couldn't recall exactly how far it was. It was getting late in the day, and the guys were keen to know, look, how long are we going to be driving? Is it going to be dark when we get there, and what's going on? And I just said, look, I think we're going to get there and we'll be able to see what we're doing, but I can't tell you how far it is, and I can't tell you exactly how long it's going to take to get there. So yeah, we did push on, and this track through here on the Dartmouth Track is a pretty easy drive all the way. It is marked as a medium on the HEMA maps, but look, really I'd say it's probably an easy. Again, this has probably been graded since those HEMA ratings were applied to these tracks. And if you do follow it all the way to the end, it does give you access to Lake Dartmouth. But yeah, driving along, and then this happened, that metal on metal sound, and it sounded like it was coming from the trailer. Very similar sound to when you get a stone stuck behind the guard on your rotors, but that's not what this was. So I pulled up. Luca, who was directly behind me, I asked him to jump out of his car and just walk alongside the trailer and see if he could identify, while I was driving slowly, see if he could identify where the sound was coming from. Comes through for you guys, but he's just called out to stop. He's identified where the problem is, so time to pull up, get out and have a look and see what the problem is and what we can do about it.
No, they're attached to these.
Adam, can you grab the other strap there, over there where the ratchet is, up here, the ratchet,
yeah.
Undo the ratchet,
Just a ratchet.
and pull some of the cable across.
Pull the strap through.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So we want to take up.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. Now do a couple of ratchet on that one.
Yep.
Right.
That's good.
That'll do it.
Still pretty.
Yeah, Luke is going to ratchet the other end.
Oh, okay.
Now, hang on. I'll come over there. I'll see how tight it is.
Okay.
So yeah, just on those crossbars is where the issue was. So what's happened is they basically both those crossbars on the passenger side have cracked and broken off. Now I did know when I put the rooftop tent on there that there were some surface cracking in those welds.
Yeah.
The guys that put the tent on had suggested that they would address that when they put the tent on, and they didn't, and I certainly should have.
Can you undo the ratchet strap for us? Undo the.
Take the tension off it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he wants to put a little bit of, that's enough. He wants to put a little bit of packing under the strap so that the metal doesn't slice it.
Oh, yeah. What?
Oh, yeah.
If both cars go, what stops it from totally sliding?
You want me to hold this corner?
Hold that corner, I'll do the front.
It's independent of the
Yeah, don't tension it up too much because you're going to do the front as well. Yep.
Yeah.
Don't know, is a cable there or something?
I don't know, yeah.
Look, it's the best I could think of, or we could think of.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep. It's a darn
you
sight
got it,
better
got-
than nothing. Just
Alright.
hang on.
Go for it.
Yep.
Oh, go ahead. Okay.
Yep.
You done?
So the guys are just winching both those straps in till they're nice and tight to basically pull that vertical bar onto the end of the horizontal bar. You can see there the broken weld. It's actually sitting down a little bit from where it was welded on, but it is sort of held on there pretty tightly, at least for transport.
Oh, it's too late.
You
Yeah.
went too early on your "this is how I feel about towing" thing.
Well, you don't. Well,
Nah,
he's
look.
come out for the test, hasn't he? He's certainly got results.
That's a shakedown.
Drive
That's a
until you
shakedown
break it.
plus.
There's a-
times 10.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's a lot of weight on that roof, you know, so the
yeah, the stress on it.
Yep.
But
It's
you'll
only,
talk
there's
about
only,
it
and
4 bars, 4 welds.
with the I've been seeing it wobble from side to side, and that's just
Flex.
gonna fatigue crack,
Right.
fatigue those welds.
It's his little takeaways from the test.
And look, that's it in a nutshell. That's what's happened there. The side-to-side movement has exacerbated some of the existing surface cracking in those welds, and yeah, it's broken on both crossbars have broken off on the passenger side. So at this point, I was still figuring out what that was going to mean and what I was going to do, but wasn't going to let that deter us. We were committed to this destination, so pushing on to the Greensbreak battery. Although having said that, Matt, who had his 2 young kids with him, and Adam, they did turn around and head back to the Windfall campground to secure that campground for us, as there really wasn't any other campsites within QE of this area, and it was getting late in the day, as you can see by how low the sun is. So it was just myself, Luca, Paul and Dan that pushed on, while the other guys secured that campsite so that we would have somewhere to camp after visiting the Greenbreak battery. And yeah, although I was taking it slow over certain sections, the trackside fix of the heavy duty ratchets was holding well, and I wasn't getting that metal on metal noise from the trailer, and it was travelling okay. And yeah, before long we made it to the car park here for the walk down to the mining battery with still a bit of light.
So we made our way here to Green's battery. Nearly missed it. The sign's been destroyed by somebody. So yeah, 1.6 kilometers, 45 minutes return. That's 45 minutes return if you're fit. Probably an hour and a half for me. These guys will do it in 45 though.
So yeah, management vehicles obviously have access to drive down here. Not that it looks like it gets driven very often, but the gate there definitely indicating this is a walking track for most of us. It'd be nice to drive down, even take a little quad or something. It's a reasonably steep descent. You can see by those suckers growing in the track that even the management guys
That's the
don't come
track.
down here that often.
Coming down there. And we're still going. Still
So
going.
yeah, it's about 700-800
in.
metres.
But it feels a lot longer, and it's all downhill. So some of you guys, if you're as fit as I am, probably enjoy watching the video and not feel the need to walk down this great big hill, because then you just have to walk back up it. Just about there.
It is a decently steep hill too. You, over the sort of 800 metres, you descend a good couple of 100 metres, so it's sort of a 1 in 4
that clearing
gradient.
down there where the old mining stuff is.
So just approaching the old mining battery now. It is one of the most intact sites of its type anywhere in Victoria. Just amazing. You can see one of the old chimneys is still intact, which is amazing after this time. It was back in the 1880s that this was actually installed.
So there's the old crusher, still intact. And the kilns, where I believe they generated the steam. Very cool.
And you can see there with Luca in frame just the scale of this thing. Like the logistics of getting this machinery out here and assembled
That's it.
back in that time is just unbelievable. They're certainly committed people, that's for sure. But yeah, both the kilns are still intact, the doors still work, the full 10 stack battery is still there.
Yeah, I don't know, you can probably find the history.
Some of the pipe work is missing, but you can see the rocks there used to build the kilns.
1883 was the date of manufacture. Yeah, oh, that's on the embossed plate down here.
I was wondering how old it was. 1893.
Just amazing to think pre-1900 people were out here looking for gold, and you know, with the technology available at the time, they've carted all this stuff out here and assembled it down in this valley in the middle of nowhere. Very impressive to see, and you know, a great piece of history. Not the most accessible piece of mining history I've seen, but you know, in my opinion, worth the effort. Very rare to see the chimney still intact like that. Don't know how much longer that one will be standing for, but it's there now. And after that, of course, the walk back up. So, after checking out the historic mining battery, which is really cool to see, and I definitely recommend it if you're in the area and don't mind a little bit of exercise. The guys patiently waited for me to get back to the top, which took some time, and it was well and truly dark by the time we got back to the top, as you can see in the driving footage here. Now, I'd been thinking this whole time, what was I going to do about the trip, the dot, the whole 9 yards, because I didn't bring a swag or anything with me because I was planning to sleep in the rooftop tent. And as you saw, the crossbars on the trailer were now broken. They were broken at the front and the back on one side. And while a couple of guys were kind of like, hey, just climb up there, you'll be right, I'm pretty heavy. And I was pretty confident that if I climbed up there, the other side was going to break in pretty short order, and then I would have this whole platform secured by nothing, because at the moment, with it ratchet strapped in place, it was actually pretty stable. But that's because it was still welded at 2 points on one side, so and it was braced against the uprights on the other side. So I didn't particularly want to try and sleep in the rooftop tent tonight, and I was also concerned about the tracks tomorrow and what might happen there. So long and the short of it, on the journey back to camp, and speaking of camp, Matt, who had a couple of his kids along with him, and Adam decided to set up camp at the Windfalls campground, which was on the way in, because it was getting dark and everything. And so yeah, they had actually secured and set up camp for us, and we're heading back there now. So yeah, it was on. At this point, I sort of decided that, look, I didn't really have an option. I thought we were probably about 2.5, 3 hours from Albury, and I decided that I needed to take the trailer back home. And my intention was to take the trailer home. I thought it was going to take me 2.5 hours, 3 hours tops, and then just grab my swag, throw that on the roof, and then turn around and come back, or at worst come back in the morning. As it turns out, it took me much longer than 3 hours. It was like 4.5 hours, because I was nursing the trailer along, and I hadn't really thought that through, as you don't always when you're tired. And consequently, yeah, it was well after midnight by the time I got home, and I was tired. And so reluctantly made the call, texted through to the guys that, look, I just didn't think I was going to be coming back, because for me to get back there and not hold them up, I was going to have to get up and leave, you know, at like 5 a.m. Which was only sort of 4 hours away. By this, you know, and that's after I transferred some of my camping gear from the trailer back to the car and everything, and I was pretty wrecked at this point. That just didn't seem like a good idea. The guys are all big guys. They're, most of them, much more experienced forward driving and camping than me, so they really don't need me holding their hand. If anything, I need them holding my hand. Yeah, look, I texted the guys and said, you know, look, carry on without me, guys, have a good trip, but unfortunately I'm just not going to get back there. So for me, this is where this trip ends. Did have planned another full day at least on this trip, but sometimes breakages and things don't allow you to complete the trip the way you wanted to. So as always, guys, thanks for watching. The dot will be back. Got some plans on how to fix that, and Trippy Matt's going to come to the rescue there just a little bit. So we'll see you in the next video. As always, if you want to support what we do, you can buy me a virtual coffee at our Buy Me a Coffee page. Link is in the description down below. Thank you so much. See you in the next video, guys.